for his decades of service to our state.
A Youngtown shelter for migrant children shut down back in September because of physical abuse allegations. And tonight, investigators have released new documents that give us a closer look at possible evidence in that case.
Team 12's Antonia Mejia has been sorting through those new documents and joins us live. Antonia?
Karibet, Paul, the documents reveal information about a 7-year-old girl who refused to go to bed. That's when a staff member is accused of dragging her by one of her legs.
The Southwest Key facility in Youngtown in the Northwest Valley is closed, but for years, migrant children were housed here. The feds suspended operations because of physical abuse allegations. One of those alleged incidents involving a 7-year-old girl who didn't want to go to sleep. Documents reveal a staff member was accused of dragging that child by her leg. And when a Maricopa County Sheriff's deputy arrived, the director on site admitted dragging a child is against the shelter's policy. But those same documents state there was no criminal offense. The responding deputy reviewed surveillance footage of the incident, and according to him, a disruptive and disorderly child was observed kicking and refusing to go to sleep. The minor was placing her feet against a door while the staff member was trying to escort her to bed, arms and legs flailing before the staff member appeared to drag her by the leg. The sheriff's deputy says the surveillance footage doesn't show indications of child abuse or intentions to harm the minor. But with more allegations like this one under investigation, the Youngtown shelter now sits empty.
We still haven't viewed that surveillance footage ourselves, but the staff member involved in this case was fired after that incident happened. We're live in the Alert Center. Antonia Mejia, 12 News.
All right.